If you enjoy this podcast, then be sure to check out Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, where you can get your daily dose of farm wisdom. Tune in every day to learn the latest tips, tricks, and stories from the world of farming. Whether you're a seasoned farmer or just getting started, our podcast has something for everyone. Join us as we explore topics like farm business, crop planning, soil management, and tools and technology. Start your day off right with Farm Small, Farm Smart Daily, available on all major podcast platforms. Don't miss out. Subscribe today. How can cover crops start to break up that compaction? If you have a plant in there that is hitting a compaction layer and J-rooting, what's changing when you introduce other plants? Why can they break up? You said corn has larger roots. Is it they have finer roots? Is it different and more microbiology happening that's helping?
That's the biggest thing. I always talk about the situation where, carpenter, if you think about carpenters, if you ever do any carpentry work, if you got to drill a hole, you'll drill a pilot hole first, okay? And that makes it easier for the bigger drill bit to get through. So think of the corn as being a big drill bit, and when it hits a very dense area, it can't get through. But if you have a cover crop that has a lot of very fine root hairs, they can get in between some of these areas and start to break it up a little bit. And then when the next root comes along, it can follow that same path. And a lot of the nutrients are going to be there and better gas exchange. And it'll follow that same path, but it's just about like drilling a pilot hole. It makes it a lot easier for that bigger root then to penetrate into that. And over time, it might take 2 to 3 years to break up your compaction in soil. Generally, we say cover crop roots can go down about 1 foot each year, but there's always going to be areas in a soil that are really, really compacted, and it might be better to think instead of how many feet that they go down or inches, it might be better to think of it in percent. Maybe the first year they take out 10 or 20% of the compaction. The next year they take out another 20 to 30% of the compaction. And then by maybe the third year, now we're up to 70, 80% of the total soil is less compacted and the roots can get through there. And then after, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that soil just literally crumbles and you can't find any compacted layers whatsoever. So it takes time. It's probably better to think of soil structure and soil compaction in percentages, how much compaction we can take out versus in depth. Because most of the time, the compaction, the poor soil structure is at certain levels in the soil, and we're trying to get through that. And maybe the first year we only take out 10% or 20%. It's hard to say. I've not done any studies on this, but just visualizing it and thinking about it as you add more roots, the next year you're going to start to spread out and you're going to start to break up more of that soil. And by the third, fourth, fifth year, every year you're making that soil a little bit better place and a little bit easier to get through. And pretty soon that soil starts to crumble. It smells better. You got more biological life. And then it's going to start to perform. Most of our problems in no-till start with soil compaction. Until you get your soil to be healthy, you got to get rid of the compaction. You've got to get good soil structure. And until that happens, you're going to struggle to make no-till corn, soybeans, whatever crop you're trying to raise. You're going to have a hard time making that successful till you get better soil structure. And that may take a couple years, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just depends on how bad it is.
So do you typically see a yield drop where somebody's producing at a high level pre-no-till, and then they go and start to transition no-till, maybe yield drops, their soil structure improves, and then it starts getting back up there and creeping back up?
Yes. Yeah. And there's a couple reasons for that. A lot of it has to do with nitrogen. Okay. So when you have poor soil structure, and I always like to think of, let's think of any natural disaster. Okay. And really tillage is a natural disaster. Okay. So the one I always think about, and I'm a little older than most people, maybe Katrina. A lot of people can remember the big hurricane that happened down in New Orleans. Let me ask you a question. What was the worst day? Was it the worst day for the people that were down there, the actual day that the hurricane hit? Well, most people found shelter, But then what happened? All of a sudden, the lights went out and the floodgates didn't work and the area started to flood and people started to get away. But what was the absolute worst time? Probably about 3, 4, 5 weeks after the actual hurricane, because things were so bad that help couldn't get in there to make it better. So the worst time in a natural disaster isn't when the hurricane actually hit, which is tillage, okay? It actually takes a period of time. Things are going to get worse before they get better. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what's happening in our soils. If you're going to make your soils heal, you got to figure out what's wrong. And the big thing is the compaction is the biggest problem. When you have compaction, you're going to get more denitrification. You're going to have less nitrogen. Okay. And because you have less nitrogen, your yields start to go down. Okay. Until you break that compacted layer up, that's going to be a problem. The other thing is you've got to change your microbial community, and that takes a little bit of time. It can take you 1, 2, 3 years to change that microbial community. In a conventional tilled system, it's dominated by bacteria. Bacteria live 6 hours, maybe a couple days at the most. Okay. Fungi live many, many years, and it can take a couple years to build those populations back up. Okay. So that's why we see that dip until you start to make the transition. And then the other thing is you got to get the air, you got to get the pore space back in there so that you can get the carbon and all the nutrients to recycle, and you got to get the right biology. So there's a lot going on with no-till. That's why we typically see that 2 to 3, sometimes up to a 5 to 7 year dip. Now, the best way to make that go quicker is to add cover crops. Go with a multi-species cover crop the first year, or even better yet, put it into a hay crop where you already have the biology and you've already kind of broken that soil up. It's a lot easier to go into no-till, say into a perennial crop like hay or a pasture or CRP, Conservation Reserve Program. You can make that transition a lot quicker. The hardest place, and this is what 95% of the people do, is they try to do it on a corn soybean rotation. Just adding wheat 1 year, and after the wheat, putting in a multi-species cover crop will greatly increase your chances for success for no-till the next year, okay? You got to heal the soil, and we got to find ways to heal it quicker. And any way that you can add more carbon back into that soil and get those root exudates and that microbial poop and that all that active carbon in the soil to heal the soil, that's going to make your soils perform better. But it can take 1, 2, 3 years. Sometimes if you're really going slow and you're doing corn after soybeans and you didn't get rid of the compaction, it can take 7 to 9 years to make that transition. But I just told you a whole lot of things you can do to speed this thing up. Manure is just really, really great. We're mimicking the bison, the buffalo. So adding some manure and getting more roots and healthier plants out there can really restore a soil fairly quickly. You'll get twice as many roots, twice as much biomass if you fertilize your cover crops with some manure. And so it can just really help to speed up the process a little bit.
Hey there. Tired of spending forever seeding nursery trays by hand? Meet the Quick Click Drop Seeder. It makes seeding trays super fast. Just a click and you're done. You can seed multiple trays in no time, making your nursery work way easier. Plus, it works with paper pot trays, microgreens, and any other tray that you have. Say goodbye to tedious seeding and hello to more time on the farm. Join hundreds of other farmers and try the Quick Click Seeder today. Available at shop.moderngrower.co or using the link below.